Welcome to another edition of Right from the Author. I'm Joe Cochran, joined as usual by my guest host, Jeff Hansen. Jeff, welcome back,
thanks
buddy.
for having me, Joe.
Yeah, great show last week with the Robert F. Kennedy assassination, and it was a lot of action, a lot of pictures, and well, I tell you, wouldn't have had it any other way. This week, we're going to touch on a couple other issues. We're going to talk to Fred Rosen here very quickly. He's from New York. He's got Deadly Angel due out on June 30th. You can get that at Amazon.com. And of course, Cyril Weck will join us. He's our regular, the great MD and pathologist. But we eventually will talk about Deadly Angel, but we're also going to talk about a man who's trying to get out of prison, where he feels like he was wrongly accused of murder back in 1973, Ray Gray. And Fred Rosen, who has written Deadly Angel, which is another subject, is working very hard on that case. Has been to Detroit a few times trying to help Ray Gray here. You're a former police officer. You are a police officer. You've read this story. What do you think?
The story from Detroit News. Yeah. It's very interesting to see that, Detroit crime, back in the 70s, you can imagine, how homicide worked back then, and, to see that somebody was convicted wrongly, if you find out that's the case, it's always a horrible travesty of justice when somebody's put in jail for nothing, for something they did not do. But we'd like to look at the facts of the case. I like to ask some questions to find out more. What exactly the case, how exactly.
You have to move cautiously on it.
Right. You have to know exactly what we're talking about, and you can't just let anybody out of jail. If the person did do it, you can't let that person out if they're supposed to still be in jail.
Absolutely, and I'll remind everybody, Jeff has written Warpath, which we discussed last week, and he is working on an unsolved murder mystery that has stumped people for about 35 years, and he hopes at the end of this year that his book will help uncover the truth. Without further ado, though, let's bring in Fred Rosen, who has written Deadly Angel. Fred, you there?
Yes, I am.
It is good to finally have you on the air. You and I have gone back and forth the last several months. Some great books you can find out at Amazon.com. Your newest will be out, Deadly Angel, June 30th. When I talked to you and was emailing you, you seem real excited about this book.
Yes, I am. It's an interesting book because it's about a woman who was an exotic dancer in Alaska who wound up involved in a plot to kill one of her fiancés using another one of her fiancés. And she had 3 fiancés, and that's all in the book, and it'll be coming out in a couple of months, so people can go to Amazon and pre-order if they like. And it's a really cool story. It also takes place in the last frontier of Alaska, which is an entirely different place than most of the lower 48. And it certainly makes for a fascinating case.
Well, I would get really confused with one fiance. Here you're talking 3. This must have really took a lot of twists and turns in this book, Fred.
Well, it did. What happened was it took a lot of twists and turns, and what happened was the dancer had gotten involved with 3 men at the same time who didn't know that each of them were engaged to her at that point. And as a result, she was able to then use a plot that she conceived of to kill one of them for the insurance money, and the book's all about what happens when she tries to do that. And it's a cold case, very similar actually in that way to the Ray Gray case. And it was a cold case that started in '96 and was finally adjudicated in 2008. And in Ray Gray's case, the case starts in 1973. And it was just recently, just a few months ago, reopened as a cold case by the Wayne County prosecutor and the Wayne County Police Department.
Oh. I'm glad you got us down that path there. Your book that we just showed on the screen will be released June 30th. You can get it from Amazon.com, and I suggest anybody who likes these mysteries, however, Fred Rosen has written many books, and I'll tell you what, I haven't read them all, but I've read a lot of the excerpts from them, and I've read some of the books. Go to Amazon.com. You can learn all about Fred. This guy is a sensational writer, and Fred, it's great to have you. Now, we talk about Ray Gray here. I did talk to the prosecutor's office today. I talked to Maria Miller, and she said this is being revisited, which you probably know. We're also going to bring in Cyril Weck here, who has read a little bit about the case. Cyril is a regular here. First of all, break down how close you think we are to getting a retrial, or at least getting this thing going, Fred, and then we'll let Cyril get in on what his thoughts are as far as the evidence and his opinion on this.
Well, in terms of, it's really hard to say
Hello?
in terms of looking at it from the point of view of a retrial. What's happening is that we're assisting, there's a group of us. I started on the case 2.5 years ago, and there were certain things about the Ray Gray case and reading through the transcript that convinced me that this gentleman might indeed be innocent and serving 30-some-odd years in jail for murder that he didn't commit. And I investigated further, and as that occurred, a group formed around us, including the Association in Defense of the Wrongfully Convicted, which is the Canadian group that got Reuben Hurricane Carter out.
That's the same group, yeah.
Yep.
And in addition to that, there were some local people that you might be aware of who also got involved. Bill Proctor, who's one of your senior reporters.
Channel 7.
Yes, exactly. And Bill has also been a prime mover. And then the case was written about by Orlando Brown in the Detroit News. And so what's happening is that the police have asked us to assist them with gathering certain pieces of evidence that they can reconsider and then make a considered judgment about how to move forward. And we're hoping, of course, that when they make that considered judgment, that they will exonerate Mr. Gray and they will charge the guilty party.
We're fortunate enough to have both great authors, Fred Rosen and Sarah Weck. I have Jeff Hansen in studio, also a police officer as well as an author. Cyril, I will bring you in on this case. You had about 24 hours to digest this. Your thoughts, opinions, and I'll let Jeff get in on this. Your thoughts on this case that's now 36 years old.
Well, the thing that stands out is the withholding of evidence concerning fingerprints. You know, this is the kind of thing that has blown many a case out of the water, and with a strong judge sometimes that can lead to an overturning of the case, at least a new trial. You know, it's wonderful that someone like Mr. Rosen is digging into this case, has spent all of this time and effort and energy. This is the kind of thing that can, you know, result in a long overdue exoneration. But the mere fact that there was fingerprint evidence and the fingerprints were not Mr. Gray's, and that evidence was not divulged to the defense attorney, that fact alone can lead to a new trial. Now, I understand the argument that somebody else's fingerprints, you don't know when the fingerprints were placed there. Yeah, I understand that, and I'm not saying that the finding of fingerprints in and of itself leads to a definite exculpation of Mr. Gray. But what I'm saying is the withholding of the information. This is unacceptable. This is something that is just not, to be casually frowned upon or superficially criticized. This gets to the very heart of the criminal justice system. And this is the kind of thing, this kind of prosecutorial misconduct for which prosecutors must pay a price and must be made to pay a heavy price. And that's my comment on this case.
I'm going to turn this over to Jeff. He'll question both Fred Rosen and Sarah Weck. As I talked to Fred Rosen earlier today, he mentioned that the murderer probably had to have been at least 5'10" the way this angle was shot. I think you said that Mr. Gray is 5'6". Jeff, I'm going to let you get in here on some of the questions. Jeff, take it over with Fred.
Well, the question